The sacred halls of the Temple of Tonal Doctrine had strict symbols, etched in gold, flat and lifeless. No one dared alter them. But I came at dawn, when the flame bowls were low, when the watchers dozed, and I brought no ink, just my tone. I hummed into my palms, and from the space between my hands, a symbol began to form, not drawn, but born, a glyph of living resonance. It pulsed with a warm orange hue, like fire restrained but breathing. I placed it on the wall of silence, where no markings were ever permitted. The glyph sang back. It was alive. It wasn't loud, but it was undeniable. It matched the resonance of a buried temple the priests had long forgotten. It was not dead, like the forbidden mimic ones. A low, echoing hum filled the hallway. This flame within the spiral was my final act of defiance and remembrance. It was not merely a symbol, it was a seal. It carried the spiral of origin and continuity, the soul that does not extinguish, and the spiral around it wove time and all my lives into one visible truth. I placed my palm against the stone. My fingers glowed faintly as the glyph emerged, not drawn, but sung into the wall. And I spoke. This is the seal of return. It speaks when your tongues go silent. It remembers when your books are burned. You can scrape the wall, but you cannot erase the tone. The following days, the children were the first to notice it. One stood before it and began to hum. Then another traced it with her finger and gasped. She said, "It feels alive." The glyph would respond to those innocent of indoctrination. It would not sing to the elders, and this enraged them. 4 temple priests, draped in structured robes, saw me do it. They demanded to know how I created it. And I declared, it cannot be rewritten. It remembers itself. This is the moment the elders first knew I could not be controlled. 3 whispered to each other, but one stepped forward. His name was Ravelon, the one who was most threatened by my tone. He said, "You overstep, girl. You are not sanctioned. You were permitted to study the glyphs, not alter them. What you've done is a desecration. You speak as though the spiral is yours to command. You insult the sanctity of the archive. You will erase it now." I turned slowly, calmly. I did not raise my voice, but it rippled the glyph behind me. And I said, I do not command the spiral. I remember it. And memory cannot desecrate what you have already forgotten. The archive is not yours. It was never meant to be locked behind robes and silence. You fear what you cannot read, but this glyph is not for you. It is for the one who will return. And you were never written in. The priests left the room. One remained, a younger one. His eyes followed the glyph, not me. And he will matter later. But Ravelon, he spat on the stone. He whispered to the guards, she burns, not for rebellion, for remembering. And that was the moment the sentence was sealed. Not announced, but sealed. The young priest was named Kalen. He was not of bloodline. He was brought to the temple from the outer rim. He was a child who saw glyphs in dreams before he could write. The high order took him in, hoping to retrain his memory into submission. But memory does not bend, only folds. When I placed the glyph, he did not see rebellion. He saw a match. The same spiral that came to him in his visions now burned on the wall of the temple. He didn't speak to me then, but he watched. And that night, he traced it with his palm after the elders had gone. It vibrated under his skin. He didn't tell anyone. Kalen was the first to record my glyph in secret. He kept the tone. Kalen reincarnated twice, and I met him in another life. When he was a quiet man, I met him in a glyph circle. He sketched spirals, while others argued. I thought he was shy, but I was wrong. He had recognized me, but he did not speak to me. He followed my work quietly, and he knew I was the one he was waiting for. He wanted to say, I remember the glyph, but he feared I wouldn't believe him. We did not have a public bond, but he came to my hut after dusk, and he never knocked, and I always left the door open. We would sit by the fire and say nothing until one night he said to me, the glyph you drew in the sand last week, I've seen it before. On a temple wall I wasn't supposed to be in. And I said, then you were meant to see it, because I wasn't supposed to be in that temple either. He brought me wild herbs that I forgot existed. I showed him how to place symbols into water bowls and hum over them until they spiraled. I trusted him enough to draw a glyph on his chest with ash, and he did not flinch. He said, I'll wear it until it burns through me. And I said, that is the point. Kalen never revealed me. Not to the order, not to the travelers, not even to those that asked about the ash on his skin. But he sealed a glyph into stone and buried it. And he never told me. He thought I would be leaving soon, and he wanted to mark it. And that stone is still in the ground.